Alright, this is part 4 of the 1968 Mustang convertible Shelby KR 500 car, or 500 KR. And just show you what's been going on. I cleaned up I'll try to clean up the dust in the garage. I mean, it's just been so awful, it's not even funny. So all the floor pans are in. The convertible floor support has been in. It's all spot welded in. I tried to save as much as the floor pans as possible. I just didn't think that it was necessary to take them all out when they weren't that bad. So I tried to leave the integrity of the car as much as possible. So that's pretty much it for in here. Of course, all the doors have all been stripped and just primered primarily, and showed you the door gap on this side. It's pretty good. Got that new fender, aftermarket fender. It's just hanging on there. Haven't really done much with it other than just hang it, keep it out of the way. But it looks in good shape. I don't see any dings in it, and it's obviously going to need some work to get it to line up right. But so we'll work on that. On the back is the biggest change. I drilled out the holes for the T-Bird taillights, and I made these steel little pocket light covers as the Shelby's had, and drilled the back of it out, and you can see those pockets actually intrude into the trunk area. But that's the way the Shelby's had them, and they were actually, I don't think they were steel, they were probably aluminum, but since aluminum would be too hard to make, I think they were stamped anyway. Anyhow, as you can see, they're all pretty good. I stamped them right, left, because I pre-drilled the holes and then drilled them in, and so they're actually, I stamped them for what they are. So you can see there, that's R2, R1, and R for right. Rear valance fits really well. You can see how that's gonna really line up well. I had to add pieces on both sides. The truck, the tail end caps, of course those are not the correct ones, but I use those to model the make sure that I was headed in the right direction. The Shelby ones can be, they're fiberglass, so they can be modified as needed. Inside is all spot welded in on both sides. I'm just using light skim coated Bondo just to get so that's smooth looking. I don't like the roughness of it, so not really hiding anything other than the indentions from the spot welds were pulled in, so just trying to improve that. But it's coming along good. Trunk, I fit the trunk fits good. And over on this side, the door gap is pretty good. It's reasonable. it needs a little work, but same thing with this fender. It's just hanging on there. Now this fender came with the car, so I don't know how old it is, but actually it looks a little better on the profile here than the other fender is on the other side. My next thing to do is to put the to add more strength to the shock towers by putting a metal plate. I made some plates up. I mean, you can buy them for like $200, but so anyway, I made these plates. They're 3/16, and my plan is to actually weld it on there, and then bend it around, heat it up and bend it around there, and then spot weld it from the inside. And I made 4 of those up, so I got 4 of them to do. I still gotta clean up the firewall and the entire underneath of the car. It still needs a lot of cleaning to do. It's got a coating of, looks like some sort of tar sealant on it, and then underneath that is the red oxide primer. And my goal is to paint it with the red oxide primer. And I just got through making something I think is pretty important. These gas tanks, they just bolted in. They're held in with like 8 bolts, and they're just screw bolts, or they don't even have bolts and washers behind it. So what I did is I made a plate that actually goes around the perimeter of the gas tank and recesses in, and that plate will sit over the gas tank, so that, and I still have to drill holes in it, but then that plate will sit on there, bolts will go through that, and then I'll anchor it from underneath, so that if the car gets hit in the rear, the gas tank will be secure and won't pop out, which was I mean, a lot of people don't know, because a lot of people aren't that old, but these cars, when they were rear-ended, were known to have fires. So that's one of the things I do in trying to improve the safety of the car. I got this 9-inch rear end. I got to go through it. Probably going to just change the pumpkin out and go to just get a, it's not posi traction, but get a posi traction center member with 350 gears in it, and run that. Still have to pull the axles. The axles are 28 spline, and go through that and clean it all up. So, but I still have to pull out the original axles that are in it, rear end. It's actually an 8-inch rear end, and the splines, this is actually, these axles will actually work in a 9-inch rear end too. They're 28 spline, so anyhow, that's the plan at this point. That's my next step is, at this point, is to drop the leaf springs, drop the rear end out of it, and pull the center section, pull the rear out of it, and then move the jack stands up so they're on the shock tower, or on the rear support brackets, which are the strongest part of the car. So that's what's going on. I mean, basically the car is got all new metal that was bad in it. All the rust is out of the car. I mean, there might be something hidden that I haven't seen, but it's got new rear quarters, it's got new rear inner and outer wheel houses, it's got a new tail panel. The valance came with the car. It was new, but it needed a lot of work to fix it. The doors are actually original to the car, and they've been cleaned and primered. The floors are just what they are, is that you can see the patches in them, and that's basically what's been going on with it. So the next step is to get these shock tower strength members in it. So I have to take the fenders off. There's only just 2 bolts holding the fenders on. Get those welded in, and then once I do that, I got to go underneath the car and clean all the paint off and all the tar off of it. And once I do that, then I can paint the bottom of the car the red oxide primer that the car came with, and paint the engine bay semi-gloss black after I do the red oxide primer. And then I'm going to start working on the Thunderbird to get the 429 out, but I want to start it first, make sure it runs before I do that. So that's the next step, is to get the 429 to run, see if it'll go into gear. Hopefully it will. And then work on pulling that out. And then getting rid of the car. I may pull the bumpers off of it. The front valance I think is good. I'm sure somebody would like to have that. The headlight buckets are probably good, so I'll keep that. The front grille, all the front grille is good, so I'll keep that. The hood's bad, the fenders are bad. There's not much good on this car. Probably will pull the dash cluster out, and also I'm going to pull the front axles, because they're disc brakes, and I'll probably pull the disc brake booster, the brake booster, the master cylinder, the vacuum cans, because this is an air-conditioned car, so it needs to have vacuum support to run that. And I believe the can actually sits in the fender well on the passenger side, so that needs to be done. And pretty much all the parts are on the car. I also got front disc brakes for it. This was even though it has power brakes, but there were drum brakes, and so I bought these off of eBay. Got them for $270 and that included shipping. And these are out of a 1970-ish Ford Granada. So those will be going in it. And then I got to get the full suspension. I want to get the car painted underneath, get the rear end in it, get the suspension in front in it, so it could be a roller. So in case something happened to me, at least they can sell it. I mean, the car right now being all repaired like this is worth quite a bit. So I'd say it's worth probably $18,000 the way it sits with no suspension or anything in it. So that's what it'd be like. Okay, this is part 4A or 2. I don't know. I'm having a problem with I don't know what the memory problem is with these cameras are. Anyway, I was talking to you about the Shelby rear end taillights. Because you have to drill holes in the back for the T-Bird taillights into the rear tail panel, Shelby had these aluminum stamped cavities that actually protruded through the sail panel or to the tail panel, and they came out into the interior compartment, so you don't have air noise and wind and rain getting in your trunk. So I had to make these things. I bought some spheres, half spheres, and formed the metal to shape it and welded them in, and so now I have them. You can buy them fiberglass, but I prefer to have the steel ones, like closer to the Shelby ones than that. So anyhow, I made them. I was going to point out the rear valance. It's fitting really good. I had to modify it. You see there that it fits really well now. Drills the holes for the rear reflectors, because this is a later '68 car, and the later ones had no indent. They just had reflectors on the outside. Here's the door gap on the other side. The floor pans, I think, came out well. I just put in as minimal as I could. The rest of the floor is solid, so I mean, there's just no reason to put new floor pans in it. And this is the original fender that came with the car. It's the 9-inch rear. I got to probably replace the center section because it's not a positive traction, and it's just a highway gear, so I'm going to change that out. I still have to go underneath and detail the car, clean the firewall, and this is the new fender I bought from CJ Ponies, and you can see the reveal here is just not as good as it should be, so I'm going to have to build that out and fix that. I also made a support for the it's a framework that sits around the gas tank. It sits around the gas tank, and once it's bolted in, it'll prevent the gas tank from popping out in an accident, because the only thing that's holding it in are just these little metal screws, and there's only there's 3 in the front, 3 in the back, and 2, so you got 10 screws holding it in. So I made a reinforcement plate, and that will definitely help keep the gas tank in. And then I'll drill through and put bolts in, and I'll put metal supports on the back of it once I get that configured. So that's what's going on there. The next step is to install some shock tower supports for big blocks. And what this is, it's just a plate that will wrap around there, and it'll sit around there, and it gives you that much more additional strength on the shock tower for big blocks. And so I got to do that on both sides. And so what I did is I made these plates up, And what I'm going to do is I'll weld it there, and then I'll heat it up with a torch, and then I'll bend it around like that. So it'll be, and then I'll come back and I'll spot weld it from the inside for those supports. And because this is, I'm putting in a big block, I mean I'm putting a big block in it. It's the 385 series 429 motor, so it'll fit, but I'm trying to get as much strength into the car as possible for it. And so that's what's going on with that. That's my next project. And then the project after that's going to be to get underneath the car and go through and detail it with the red oxide primer. And then I can come in and paint the firewall up front. And once I get the firewall painted, and then I need to go out to the Thunderbird and get that thing running, check the transmission in it, make sure everything's good with it, and then pull it out, go ahead and detail it, and then put that in the car. And I also want to finish putting the front suspension in and getting that in the car. And then in the meantime, as months go by, I'll buy parts for the body and fit those as well. So lots of stuff to do. It's just it's a long project. It could be done a lot faster, but that's not the point, because of trying to do it without spending an additional amount of money up front. So that's what's going on. And then I cleaned, because the dust is just so bad in here, I cleaned the garage up with an air hose, and I sprayed and sprayed and sprayed, so it looks pretty clean again. I'm thinking about putting doors on those cabinets down below, just because it'll help keep less dust from getting in there. And also thinking about moving that shelving unit to the garage, to the shed, just to try to keep the space down to a minimum here, because when I start to primer the car, try to get the least amount of dust as possible. So anyhow, that's where we are. All new metal all the way around. Got new supports in here. These are original to the tail caps are original to the car, but those were just mocked in there just to see how the fit up was before I welded it in, and those look good. So now it's just a matter of getting the Shelby parts and fitting those. I did check the hood, the trunk. The trunk fits, so we're in good shape there to get everything fitted up. And then I'll have to start working on the body. You can see that this body is not these body panels are just not very good. You can see the wave in it there. That's all got to be fixed. Up front there's a dinger up here, but I'm going to fill this in. I'm not going to keep that reveal line. I just welded that in because I think it looks better welded in. I already went and put some minor filler. It doesn't take much filler on this, and I put filler on here, and you can see now the transition is even. This is paint. That's still got to come off and be resanded, but I was just trying to do the transition to see what it looked like. And it looks pretty good. It's still a little low back here that I need to fix. But I really think the Shelby caps came out well. They were a lot of work to make, but here again, the sheet metal actually came off the Mustang. I mean, a lot of the sheet metal is part of the rear quarters, so I didn't have to buy any metal for it. They're